Little handles pop out when you walk up close to it. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the all-new Renault Megane in Irish spec right here, right now. 60 kilowatt hour battery. It's going to come with a bigger battery later on, but right now it's 60 kilowatt hour, which I'm reluctant to talk about range too hard because it very much depends on how you drive it. It said 380 when I picked it up first, which means the person before me was driving a certain way. Now it says 280 because I've been going up and down the motorways at rather high speed every day this week, and I've driven it for over 1,000 kilometers. So let's get into the detail behind the Renault Megane, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. So a quick look at the front design while I pop the doors open is that it's very clean. It looks actually quite flat on the front, but it's actually quite aerodynamic as well. These lights all blink and glow and stuff when you walk up to it, and the car's open at night time and you walk away. It might do it now if I walk away. There's the lights flashing. No, it's not doing a front flashing lights. There is a little sort of there it is, it's flashing back and forward now, you can see it there. But it's very clean design on the front. I quite like the design. I think it's quite very not Renault. Even though the badge is quite big on the front, it doesn't look like a Renault on the front. The rear design, however, is quite nice. So the rear end design has that Germanic look of the kind of light bar across the back of the car, which is there the whole time. Quite a small rear window. We'll get into that on the drive. It's quite small. You can see over it, but it's small enough. It's a little lip spoiler here over the top and a button to open this. A little subtle design detail. I do like that they've changed the E into a sort of a plug on the back for the word Megane. And then the boot itself is very deep, right? Deep. Put your hand in here and it's all the way down to that point of my hand. So it's that deep of a step in over the back of that to drop anything in. Some of you won't get on well with that. It does have shopping bag hooks on both sides. It does have a little light back here. And there's a little storage area for your AC cable if you choose to buy one, that is. But I do like the rear design of the car. It works for me. It'll probably work for you if you've got a double buggy or some kind of big buggy, stuff you want to drop in. But if you don't like bending over, if you're that much, you know, that doesn't get on with you, there's problems with your back or whatever, probably you should look at that very carefully before you buy this car, because that is very deep. Let's have a look inside though, see what you get in there. Just one little point before we hop inside the car. I love the way the handles pop out, but they do pop away eventually. So eventually, if you don't open the door, the handle disappears even if you stand beside the car. It can be frustrating. Charge point is on the side of this car. AC and DCs all on one side. Has unlocking, has timing as well on it, but this is a bit of a stretch for some charge when you turn up at the wrong side of it. And yes, it is quite dark in here. I'm going to tell you that straight off. There's no glass roof in this. So it does feel a little bit dull in here, but it's actually quite nice for nighttime driving. It's very cozy. If you listen very carefully, you can hear that my voice doesn't reflect off any surfaces here. So there is a lovely sort of tomb feel to the whole thing. Across the dash, it looks nothing like a Renault. So you have the Renault interface here, which if I just go home, it'll bring you to the Renault interface, which talks about air quality and multi-sense and electric and driving eco and gives you all sorts of details. And then you can go into all the apps as well. You can change your apps, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You can go to the radio, you can turn on Bluetooth audio, Google News, podcasts, very Google centric by the way. And sat-nav is provided by Google. So it's Google Maps that is logged into the sat-nav here, and you use Google Assistant to do all this sort of stuff. But I actually have an Apple device, and I click Apple in the middle, and I have Apple CarPlay. They've managed that by creating a thin bar at the top, which gives you access to all the car stuff. Then you have Apple CarPlay in the middle. Then a thin bar at the bottom that allows you access to your air conditioning system, which is all provided on physical buttons at the bottom. It is one of the best interfaces I've seen in any of the cars. Beneath that is a wireless tray, which I'm not keen on wireless charging in a car, if I'm honest with you. I think it just makes my phone go very warm, very hot in places as well. And it causes its own little issues here and there, especially if the phone overheats or continuously charges. So I want somewhere to put the phone that isn't in that tray charging on its own. And so that infotainment system is the best on the market that I can see so far, particularly because it has the physical buttons across the bottom to control the air temperature inside the car. And that's very important because I don't have to look at the screen to that, just up and down on these little bits here, sync, AC, the usual stuff. And if you want all the car functions, you go through the top bar. If you want your phone functions or your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto functions, they're in the middle bar. But if you don't want to use any of those, you can still use Google Maps on that. There's a little tray here in the center. This little tray hides two USB ports, two little USB ports, and you can stick your phone kind of sitting in that a little bit if you want to. And there's no USB port down here. There's a 12-volt socket in this massive bin in the middle of it. The massive bin has two sort of cup holders in it, and then just some bins, just some literally throw things into a bin effect. There is a bin behind us as well. No carpet that, so it's a bit plasticky in there. So if you put in a set of keys in that, it'll rattle around inside that thing. You do get a glove box as well. It'll take more than a glove. It's definitely kind of a deep glove box, which is pretty good. And then you have this kind of cloth interior that works very well. Now, thinking about the driver, from a driver's perspective here, this is brilliant, to be honest with you. Infotainment system is very good on the front of the driver part. I'll go through that as we drive along. I'll show you what I'm talking about there. There is a few too many stalks on the right hand side. So the stalk on the top is the gears. So it's like in the Mercedes point where it sits in here. Underneath that is all your wipers, and underneath that is all your radios, all on one side. Then this side gets your lights and indicators. And then on the dash, on the steering wheel itself, you have all your active cruise controls on this side, and all your controls that controls all this and stuff is on that side. Then you multi-sense, we go into multi-sense when we get on the drive as well. There is carpet in the box next to me here. So when I throw my little umbrellas or cups or anything into that, that's actually carpeted, so it won't make noise when it's sitting in there. Some of the German brands could learn from that again. A few other controls in here as well, kind of control the lights and stuff as well, but perfect. This is perfect. I even have heated seats. I have no complaints about this interior. None. It's one of the very first cars that I can sit here and go, I don't have a worry in the world with people buying this car. It is, without doubt, one of the best interiors on the market. Let's have a little look though at the back seats where it might all go wrong. So the main thing I said in the last bit was that it is pretty dark in its interior, and it certainly is pretty dark interior, and it's a bit tight back here as well. So that seat is set for me as a full-size adult. I like to sit a little bit more reclined, I suppose, than most, but this is a bit tight for me to sit behind me. I don't think it's a big problem. I don't think it's any smaller than anyone else is offering at the moment. Back door, good big thud off that, but you can see how dark it gets in here almost immediately as soon as I close that. But it is very reassuringly quiet and serene back here. In the back seats, I don't get a centre armrest in here, but you will fit 3 people back here. You will fit 3 across, just about. I wouldn't do it for a very long journey, but you certainly will be fairly comfortable for a shorter journey on it. ISOFIX is of course on both seats on the back here, and you have 2 USB ports for charging and a way to turn on and off the vent, and that's kind of your back seat. So much more like a traditional 5-door hatchback than a pure electric car, if you know what I mean. There isn't a lot of space in here because they're giving it over for some of the batteries and boot space, which we've done the boot space already. But you know, there are I'm not saying it's the perfect car, but we're bloody close to it now. Certainly I'm forgetting that it's electric. Let's go for a spin. So what's it like to driving on? I just don't really have a complaint here. I think it would do most of your daily commutes on a 60 kilowatt hour battery. There is a bigger battery coming in the near future. I think it's going to be an 80 kilowatt hour battery. Don't quote me on that one, I'm not quite sure, but definitely a 60 kilowatt hour battery does everything I wanted to do. Now, the difference in weight means this car will do nearest makes no difference the same range as the bigger battery car. It's just the way it is, right? But this car does everything I wanted to do. It has not missed a beat all week. We've come out, pressed the button, gone, zoomed up, turned around, came home, never thought about range. Just never occurred to us. Now, I'm very fortunate in that I live in Portlaoise. That fortunate means that I am surrounded by charge points here, right? So I have a Portlaoise Plaza, I have Junction 14 on the way up, I have another one on the way up as well. It has an Ionity on one side of it, on both sides of the road, should I say. There is fast chargers essentially mostly along the N7 there, all the way down. Most of the petrol stations have them. So I'm fortunate in that respect, but I have not stopped on one of them all week. I haven't gone near them. The other day, I brought my beautiful daughter out for lunch, and we plugged into a 22 kilowatt charger uptown. We came back with 85% charge in the battery. I can't make it any easier than I'm making it in this video for you to choose electric and say that electric is not the be all and end all of everything. I don't think we've reached the end of petrol and diesel and other alternative fuels. I don't see a future for hydrogen. I know BMW is trying to push that now, but Toyota tried to push that, Hyundai tried to push that. They all gave a shot at it, and every one of them have failed so far, particularly in Europe, aside from buses and trucks who have a possibility of using hydrogen properly. But for private use vehicles, we have no infrastructure, we have no way of carrying it from place to place, we don't have any of the engines available. There's just so much against it. And electricity is everywhere. It's even in like abandoned pubs that are there passing by. There's plugs there that I can plug into. There's no plugs for hydrogen in Ireland. Nothing. There's no petrol station carrying them. Nobody has one. So you can look at all the ways that hydrogen might survive, might do its job, but it's at the very best, it'll be a short-term stopgap between what we have now and what the future is. And I think electric is going to be the way personal transport will go, with a mix of petrol and diesels amongst them in PHEV forms and kind of just small, I think small, little, tiny private vehicles will still be better at the moment with a small, little, tiny engine, like a 1 litre thing. But other than that, this car shines a light along with my top 5 cars on the market at the moment. This is number 1, number 2, or number 3. You choose. You decide which one you like the most. So look, my top cars on the market at the moment are all BEVs, really, you know. They just are. And I think most of the car companies have done a really good job at catching up now on Tesla, where they started. I don't see a good future for Tesla Group as car manufacturers unless they come out with something extraordinary. And it's not that truck thing. That's obnoxiously big and stupid. That's a very American thing. You're not going to see much of that in Europe, I don't think. So I think the European car makers are doing an exceptional job right now, bringing out some really good cars. And Renault would be one of the top of the heap of that. They're doing an incredible job in this car. I don't feel that battery bounce. I don't have any problems with charging. It just works, lads. It just works. If you want to take the plunge on something like a 5-door hatchback, this is definitely on the top of my list for you to look at right now. And you don't feel like you're driving an SUV, and you don't feel big elevated road. It just works very well. There's a couple of minor flaws, but I think I can sacrifice those flaws to say this is one of the best cars in Ireland today. Listen, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've hit the subscribe button along this journey. If you haven't, I want to know why. Why didn't you subscribe and you're still watching this point? But thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And until the next time, I'll see you on the far side.